Hello and welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. In addition, today, as always, we're on 89.3 Lakes FM and 88.1 WBFH The Biff. Also on Birmingham Area Municipal Access on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. Also online, civiccentertv.com. Click on our Watch Live link or view us at the top right of the homepage in that small player that shows all of our live programming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/CivicCenterTV15 and facebook.com/LakesFM. And for the first time in a long time, joining me back in the studio is Ronnie Dahl.
Tyler, it's great to see you in person, but
Yes.
I have to admit, it's a change in the routine. We get so into our morning routines. Mm-hmm. I didn't like getting dressed.
Yeah, it's definitely a change of pace. Having to go through the rush of getting in here, dealing with morning traffic on the way into the office and all that. No, you're coming from Keiko Harbor. It's a quick jump for you, but
No morning traffic for me. But I will say, I was walking to my car because it was parked around the corner because we cleared out the cars for the morning garage sale, and I ran into my neighbor, and she's like, "Where are you going all dressed?" And I said, Right? I'm like, I have to go back into the studio. Because, my husband still is not back in the studio.
Wow, that's surprising to me. Any idea when they may be having him come back?
I think they're kind of in the process. He was hearing it could be as late as the fall, but he's really kind of pushing to get in a little bit sooner. Now, just so people know, too, obviously, everyone knows that watches the show, all 50 people or so.
Sure.
My husband is Woody Woodruff. He does sports at Fox 2. So what they have been doing, though, is they are now allowed back into the ballparks, but they are still not doing in-person interviews. All the interviews are still over Zoom. So you go to the ballpark, you can watch the game, shoot your stand-ups, which we call in the business is basically that in and open
right.
with the back drop behind you. But then you still have to do your interviews via Zoom. So from that aspect, I don't think it's really going to change much, though, from the major sporting area as well. I think they may keep that going because it's worked out so well for them.
Yeah, it's convenient for the athletes. It provides some distance. The teams and it makes it easy for the teams too to dip out of the interviews if they don't like the line of questioning instead of having the players walk out. Oh no, my connection's going bad. Oh sorry. We had an internet outage and you can't keep going on the interview. So it's convenient. You can get them at any time that's convenient for the team. They can have their team meetings immediately after the game instead of going through dealing with the press and then having any of those meetings. So I think it is something that will stick around in sports.
I know, but sometimes for the press, it's a little bit of a pain in the butt for these Zoom interviews too. Just because sometimes it's the timing, it's a connection, and this, that, and the other. But I will say with that, I got to clean up my office. So my husband, when this all first happened, way back when, I was still working for ATF. And so we turned my office, I have a downstairs office, and then we have an upstairs loft area that he would use kind of as his, pay the bills place because he didn't really need an office. So we turned that into his sports backdrop. And then as this evolved, and then I came back here, I took over downstairs, and we turned an upstairs spare bedroom into his office because we use a projector that, by the way, we bought for our Halloween display in Keiko Harbor years ago. I was like, hey,
why not?
We can put the Sportsworks
nice.
logo on our back wall. We've all become creative throughout this time, right, Tyler?
Yeah.
So he kind of took over the back bedroom, and then I moved into the downstairs, but we only have one Yeti mic.
Okay.
So we kind of been sharing it. Oh, and I already had studio lights. I don't know why I had them, but I had them. So it was easy with the lighting. because he could set up his upstairs lighting. I had downstairs lighting, but the mic, we only had one, so we were kind of sharing it, this, that, and the other. But I will say over the weekend, I was able to clean up my office, and I was like, oh, it looks so clean in here, and then I was like, baby, I'm just going to put the mic upstairs in your room, and then you can use it. And I was like, do you want to move back downstairs? He's like, no. But I will say, I think Trixie and I are ready for Woody to get back into the office or back into the studio. So normally he anchors on Friday and Saturday nights, so he would be gone most of the, the night shift. And we could watch our Hallmark, just chill out.
That's quiet evening. Right.
I know. Our old dog, Katie, she had pajamas.
Ah, okay.
And then we would have a pajama night and watch Hallmark on every Saturday night at 9:00. Tyler, I know you don't know this because you're a dude.
I don't. I have no clue. I believe every word you say. I'm just going to take your word for it.
So this is a big thing. Like every chick knows, Hallmark does a new movie, typically Saturday nights at 9. So we would always have a doggy mama PJ night. Well, now it's a little bit different because my husband is in the back spare bedroom right next to us.
Right.
While we're trying to watch Hallmark and you're trying to be quiet and this, that, and the other. So I don't know. We'll see if he gets back there, though.
Have you ever tried to put Trixie in pajamas? I feel like that would be a lot tougher with a 70-pound plus dog.
We did get her a pair and she didn't like them. So it was weird, though, because how she walked in them, I will say. The little Cocker Spaniel, by the way, bless her heart, Katie dog was a rescue dog as well. So we mainly do rescue dogs. And by the end of her life, she was just like, whatever. Like, we had so many, like, I had shirts made that said, for the dog, she and I matched. And it was 1 year for Father's Day, and it said Papa's Girls. And they matched because, we say, oh, we're Papa's Girls.
Yeah.
I know, it's crazy. Anyway, how was your weekend, Tyler?
My weekend was good.
That's way too much personal information. My husband's like, what are you talking about? He's used to it, though, on social media. And anyone will notice, too, I only take him WW, and most of my social media, he is not. He's old school. He doesn't like social media. He has Twitter for work because he was forced to have it. And then his Twitter is connected to his Facebook, so he never checks his Facebook. But he's a tweeter. And then at sports, he doesn't care. He's like, no one needs to know about my life.
I like that mindset. I wish that was the world we were still living in, where it's like, all right, we don't need to know what everybody's thinking at every single second on every single topic. It's just so much. It can be so much. So yeah, I can totally understand his point of view, but I also get why it's very important today for the news industry, even especially in sports with game by game and just all the breaking news that comes in each and every day about player movement and transactions and all that, why it's useful and important.
Yeah, forget those old school news deadlines, right? Those are thrown out the door. Today, everything is about that first breaking tweet, really, when it comes to the news media.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
So I remember back, I think I was still at Fox 2 at that point, and they were trying to push the internet at that time. Hey, you have to get it out. But you were trying to be so careful if you had an exclusive story not to put it out too early that the competition could get it and then kind of piggyback on your information. So you would try to maybe put the alert, social media alert at that time. I think it was pretty much Twitter, a little bit Facebook, right before the show, maybe 15, 20 minutes. So other stations didn't have time to confirm your information.
Yeah, the competition has definitely got to be a lot higher now with social media and with these stories getting out there so quickly, and even having non-journalists be, in some ways, breaking these stories, not quite doing it in many cases in the most ethical manner possible or the most accurate manner possible, but at least getting some information out there, and then from there the professionals will get on the story and get all the information and confirm everything. and get that out to the public.
So I do remember talking with someone in the media, and I said, when I was the PIO for ATF, and I said, when is your deadline? And they laughed, and they're like, my deadline is now. This is a new world. I don't have a 5 o'clock deadline. I don't have a 7 o'clock deadline. My deadline is now. And that's the world that we live in right now, Tyler.
Yeah, people want their news right away, and it has some benefits to it. People get their news when they get their news early, but it has a lot of drawbacks too. And one of those drawbacks is you can't go back necessarily and 100% confirm that you have everything correctly. In many cases, you are often, in many cases, we've seen over the years, there's been stories that have just been released in a really hasty manner to get them out first and get that information so that your network or you personally are being recognized for breaking the story, and that can be extremely problematic when your business is highly based on accuracy.
Oh my gosh. And I will say, for people who don't know behind the scenes, reporters that are kind of worth their salt, let's just say it that way in today's day and age, it's all about your sources. Right. You're only as good of a journalist as the sources that you build. And those sources, you have to build that trust with them. And so you work behind the scenes to be able to get information, because we know a lot of people can't go on the record, but they can confirm or deny certain things. So that's the world of journalism. And so when you have certain situations and you have the public saying, hey, I'm here on the scene, this is what it looks like, that's not always the accurate story. There's so much more to it. And so it's all about your sources really behind the scenes. And I will say that to any new journalist that is coming up, because some of the younger kids in journalism school or these new journalists as well, they kind of look like journalism versus influencers. And there's a complete difference, which it's so funny because, Tyler, even 10 years ago, if you would have said, what's an influencer? And how does it play into journalism? But you have to kind of look at that and know that. I remember there was a guy that I used to do so many stories with on the Blight Beat in Detroit. And he would go through and he'd be like, hey, this, and this. And I try to teach them along the way, no, wait, you have to be careful. You have to word it. Sometimes when you get public documents, you word things exactly as the public document says, and that keeps you out of trouble. So it's a different world out there, though. Yeah, I'm getting old.
It's definitely a different world, and in many ways it's a scary different world because of that mixture between journalism and influencer culture, because everyone's trying to get out there and be recognized for their story first, get the information out as quickly as possible, when being careful in many cases, especially with high-profile stories, really important stories that are impacting a lot of people's lives, or even really anybody's lives. You want to be extremely careful with that information, because if you are wrong and you're releasing it quickly, you're causing real people real issues.
Yeah, and we should note as well today, before we jump into the headlines there, Tyler, I want to say congratulations to James Craig, who is officially retired from the Detroit Police Department after joining the department, I believe it was like 8-9 years ago. And I remember when he came on, he was a part under the emergency manager, Kevin Orr, who brought Chief Craig in to the city of Detroit. And behind the scenes, this is a show for another conversation, there was a little bit of, let's just say, love-hate relationship between Chief Craig and Mayor Duggan in the beginning. So I'm happy to say I wish him the best. We'll see what happens next for him. Is he actually going to run for governor or not? Maybe we should try to get him on the show, because even though it's Detroit, he's had such a huge influence on law enforcement, not just in Detroit, but the entire state of Michigan. That includes here in Oakland County as well.
Yeah, managing a department the size of the Detroit Police Department has a major influence on other departments throughout the local area in Wayne County, in Oakland County, in Macomb County, in southeastern Michigan. And so Chief Craig's definitely had that impact. A lot of our leadership in local law enforcement here in Oakland County very much has looked up to Chief Craig, or has gone to him for guidance, and so he's definitely had a big impact in this local area.
Yeah, law enforcement community, while it may seem vast, it could be very small as well. And I will say his advice and his guidance has been sought throughout the country as well. So maybe we can get him on. I know he doesn't want to talk about his next phase. Is he actually going into public office? I will say I was surprised. I thought he was going to run for the mayor of Detroit.
Yeah.
Because he, a lot of people may not realize this, but when Ike McKinnon retired, Chief James Craig was named as the deputy chief mayor for the city of Detroit. Not a position he had to fill a lot, but he was there and he had the title. So interesting too. So maybe we should try to get him on. Hey, by the way, today's June 1st. Happy June. It's summer.
Yes.
Almost, officially.
Almost. Yeah, unofficially after Memorial Day. We'll call it summer. It's not officially summer until later on in the month, but it's close enough. We're calling it summer.
I know. This weekend it's going to be 85, 90.
Yeah.
Last weekend, it was horrible. As you know, we had the big garage sale.
Right.
Sylvan Lake and Kegel Harbor. Sylvan was packed. We didn't have a lot of business there in Kegel. I will say, though, Tyler, I kind of cheated.
Uh-oh.
Or tell me if this is cheating. So when we didn't do the sale on Friday because the weather was just crap. So we did it Thursday. Not a bad day. Saturday we were slow and we were like, what? It's beautiful, because it wasn't so warm that you had to be on the lake.
Right.
Because the water is still cold, by the way. It was only, 68?
Yeah.
But it was a beautiful day. Not a cloud in the sky. So I went over to Sylvan Lake and wrote our address on a bunch of my old school business cards from way back when I was at Fox 2. I had to get generic reporter cards made up.
Right.
And I found them in the cabinet, wrote our address, and then drove through Sylvan Lake handing out my card. Hey, we're not picked over. Come over to Kegel.
Yeah.
Come over to Kegel.
No, it's not cheating. It's called marketing. Okay. I'm sorry, Sylvan Lake garage sailors. If you're not doing your own marketing like that, you're losing out to the competition. The free market's going to decide. It's okay.
And I did just that. We actually got a lot of people, I will say.
Great.
Made a few $100s off them.
Let that be a lesson to all the other people doing garage sales, that if it's going slow, just do a little bit of, person-to-person marketing.
There you go. Hey, Tyler, today's kind of a big day here in the state of Michigan. Many of the Michigan restrictions on businesses and gatherings aimed at preventing the spread of the COVID-19 are going to be lifted today. Capacity limits for outdoor events and venues such as Detroit Tigers baseball games and concerts, they are going to be disappearing under the new State Department of Health and Human Services order that was released recently. Restaurants, bars, and other indoor venues can increase capacity for customers to 50% from the current 25% limit, and common areas for pool tables and dancing can reopen. So in addition, the Michigan Occupational Safety and Health Administration is loosening restrictions on COVID-19 workplace rules, making it easier for businesses to resume in-person work. So under the changes, employers may allow fully vaccinated employees to go without face coverings as social distancing indoors, as long as they have policies in place for a non-vaccinated people. DTE Energy, Clarkson, scheduled to start its outdoor concerts in July 25th with the band Chicago. Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, scheduled to host an indoor non-televised superstars. WWE, wrestling, so big and so popular. That's going to be on August the 1st. And also, just as a reminder, that 2 a.m. curfew for bars and restaurants, it's been lifted. So, starting today, you can go to your local watering hole and stay out until 2 a.m. And that requirement of no more than 6 people can be seated together in groups of patrons must be 6 feet apart. It's out the door.
Yeah, a lot of these restrictions have been lifted. I was down at Comerica Park on Saturday with my dad and my brother to see the Tigers take on the New York Yankees. And
they great game. They swept.
Yeah, they swept the series. Yeah, they won 6-1 on that particular day. It was a really pretty good game. A little chilly out there, but it's a great day. It was a great day for baseball, and even at Comerica Park, they were loosening up their restrictions. You had to still do a sign-in over your phone to do do COVID checks for you and anyone else that was with you. But as long as you had passed that through, they would let you in, and they'd ask if you were vaccinated, and if you are, you don't need to be wearing your mask. Now, they didn't do anything to confirm that necessarily, because they really can't in many cases here do that in general public spaces. But it was nice to see people's faces in a public setting for the first time in a long time.
It is kind of weird. I will say, I went to a Tigers game a couple weeks before you, and one of the benefits, no line for the restroom. Right. For chicks, that's a big deal. And no line for any of the refreshments or the beverages.
Yeah, it was nice to kind of walk around a little bit in between innings, and not be shoulder to shoulder in many places, with people who have to weave through and thread the needle to venture around the ballpark. It was really nice to have a little bit of space, but still have a large sum of people there still.
Hey, by the way, it's summer camp season now. So kids at summer camps can skip wearing masks outdoors with some exceptions. So children who aren't fully vaccinated should still wear a mask outside when they are in crowds or in sustained close contact with others. And when they are inside, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said. So fully vaccinated kids, though, need not to wear masks indoors or outside. Guidelines opened the door to a more conventional camp experience and came out in the nick of time just before the camps start opening in some parts of the country. Guidance is the first in a wave of updates that will incorporate the CDC's recent decisions on mask and social distancing. If you remember earlier this month, the agency said Americans don't have to be as cautious about mask and distancing outdoors, and that fully vaccinated people don't need masks in most situations. So previously, the CDC advised that just about all people at camp should wear a mask, with only a few exceptions, like while you're eating, drinking, swimming. Kind of hard to go swimming in a mask. New guidance also says social distancing, staying 3 to 6 feet from others, is recommended for the unvaccinated, but not for the vaccinated. What a different conversation from a year ago this time.
Yeah, a much different conversation from a year ago, where we were trying to see whether or not we could still hold summer camps and what you could really do in terms of what you normally see at summer camps while still masked and socially distant. Now we're seeing things open back up and allow for some restrictions to still be in place for kids that are not vaccinated, in order to protect staff and to protect the other kids as well that may not be vaccinated. But things are opening back up, and it's more of a normal experience for these kids who really need some sort of a normal experience, which they haven't really had in school over the last year, and having that in the summer at least, as they're relaxing after a stressful couple of years of school, will be really beneficial.
Exactly, and we should note, though, a lot of kids still are in the age group to be able to get vaccinated. So, hey, but as we were talking throughout this show, the interest in Michigan's tuition-free community college program exceeding expectations. I'm so happy to see people are taking advantage of this. So since the Michigan Reconnect Scholarship Program was announced back in February, applications have exceeded state goals of 60,000 by Memorial Day. So nearly 72,000 people have applied for the tuition-free program to Michigan's community colleges or skills certification programs, rather. I just can't talk today, Tyler.
That's okay. It's a Monday, but it's a Tuesday.
I know. I haven't had any caffeine whatsoever, which for me is a problem. Funded by $30 million from the Michigan legislature, the scholarships are open to anyone 25 or older that have lived in Michigan for at least a year, have a high school diploma or the equivalent, and have not completed an associate's or bachelor's college degree program. Although I do wish they would have kind of opened this up to people who maybe want to make career changes as well. So in the interest, the scholarship program has been widespread across the state, especially here in the more populated counties such as Macomb County, Wayne County, and Oakland County. Any student still interested, you have to apply first through the state website and then fill out the free application for the federal student aid and then apply to the community college of your choice. So a little bit of good news coming out of this pandemic as we seek to get more people in some of our trades. And let's hope that kind of boils over into some of these areas that we really need people, such as healthcare.
Yeah, and that's been one of the primary motivations behind these programs that were being considered even before the pandemic, but especially during the pandemic where these services were in such greater need. Really shifting the focus from everybody needs to go to college and get that degree to get a good job to you can get really good jobs in these skilled trades, and it's a huge need here in the state of Michigan. And if we want to retain people staying in Michigan and contributing to the state's economy, we need to have people that are in these skilled trades.
So with that, our apologies to our next guest, running a little bit behind because Tyler and I haven't seen each other in person for quite some time. So a little bit of rambling here on the show as we kick off the June season of the Megacast. When we come back, though, we are excited to bring in Eric Wallis, our good friend over at Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital, and talking about this program to try to get so many people certified in so many of these different industries. Could that be a benefit for the healthcare industry? We'll be talking to Eric Wallis about that and so much more next here on the Megacast.
Quitting smoking can improve your health, but it also protects your loved ones from secondhand smoke. Did you know there's no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke? Smoke from cigarettes, e-cigs, and hookah can travel through ventilation systems and harm those around you. So clear the air and stop secondhand smoke. Call the Michigan Tobacco Quit Line at 1-800-784-8669. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
COVID-19 has caused many families to fall behind on finances and on groceries. But you're not alone. You shouldn't have to worry about putting food on the table. MyBridges offers access to quality food and income assistance to help families across the state get the food support they need. It's easy to apply and easy to start shopping. Apply for services at michigan.gov/MIBridges. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Great to have you with us here on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios. Once again, rejoined with Mr. Tyler Keefe. Great to be with you here, and we want to say thank you for our next guest. Our apologies for running a little bit long, but we always appreciate having you on the show, but also the conversation and the insight that you provide us. Eric Wallis with us. He's the president for the Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me back.
You know, we were just talking about the story about the tuition-free program that the state of Michigan has launched throughout this pandemic. Do you hope that that helps impact the healthcare industry?
No, absolutely. I think one of the things we've seen throughout the pandemic is that the workforce in Southeast Michigan specifically has been very tight. We need more folks to step into various careers, including bedside nurses who can go and start their career with a 2-year degree at the local community college. We have a lot of unlicensed roles, technical roles that we would love to see folks to step into and get some training and be able to come into the workforce. As simple as we need folks who are chefs and cooks and folks who work in our environmental services spaces. All of whom benefit from those kinds of programs. So very much being supportive of seeing those programs grow.
With that, Eric, too, I think that so many people, when they think of a hospital or a healthcare system, they think of it like needing an advanced degree. But there are so many jobs open to everyone. And once you get in, you can really create your future, take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, almost every hospital system has, programs that are designed to help people go back to school, to support their career growth. Just last week, I was talking with one of our environmental services team who's been in her role for a couple of years now, and now she's going to be stepping into a role with our valet team. We see all the time folks who start out in non-patient care roles who then step into things like nurse assistants, who then go back to school to become nurses. We see nurses who become nurse practitioners. And so it's really a series of lifelong learning opportunities where if you're somebody who's motivated, somebody who wants to grow and got a path that you're heading toward, that's exactly who we want. We want people that want to continue to do more, and we can support them through that process.
So with that, Eric, if I can ask you as well, because several years ago I had a girlfriend, she was 40, and she went back to college. She was an esthetician. She went back, got her nursing degree at 40 years old to become a nurse. Now she works at a local a local hospital. But so many people think once I reach a certain age, I can't do something. But the healthcare industry to me is jump in and learn.
Yeah, absolutely. We have folks from all kinds of different industries that jump in. We've got one of our nurse managers who started his life and spent a lot of his life on the line at Ford and decided he wanted to do something different. And so he came back and became a nurse, and now he's one of our nurse leaders. And so there's, lots of those kinds of stories that exist. And so you're never too old. What we really want is somebody who wants to serve people. And if you come kind of with that attitude, we can help you find your passion in life.
And with that, I know that you kind of started on the nursing side as well, but really talk about, it doesn't matter what position you work at in a hospital, you are helping people.
You betcha. I think every single person in this building has one of two job descriptions. They either take care of patients or they take care of the people taking care of patients. And both are equally important. And so, yeah, there's no end to the things that you can do. And we've got just about every type of skill and trade and person here in our facility. And that's one of the great things about healthcare is there's such great diversity within the building and the different types of roles that you can have. And at the end of the day, every single one of them helps to make a difference in people's lives.
Eric Wallis with us here on the Megacast. He's the president for the Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital. And if I can kind of take you down a memory path, do you remember your first day on the job?
Oh my gosh, yes. So I think you alluded to, I was a bedside nurse working in a medical surgical kind of unit. And, I could tell you horror stories about day one, but at the end of the day, we got through it. And, it was a character experience. But it was great. At the end of the day, I went home and I knew I made a difference for the people that I was taking care of. So, I joke all the time that, being a nurse is the greatest thing in the world. And if you're not careful, someday they'll make you the hospital president.
Well, you are definitely an example of where you can start out and where you can end as well. But just think about all the lives that you've touched through those years and through that journey. And if we can kind of talk a little bit more about COVID-19, the numbers are down in Michigan. I think the last time we had you on, we were in that middle of that crazy surge here in the state. A little bit of relief or not yet? Are you concerned about the variants?
No, it's been an interesting kind of surge. We saw this surge this latest surge go up very quickly, and it's actually come down very quickly. So it's not like the previous ones that we've seen. It was a very young population that we saw getting COVID-19 this time. And frankly, that means that we know that the vaccines work. And a lot of the folks that were coming into us were folks that hadn't been vaccinated yet. So it's been really good. We've been down in the low single digits now here at West Bloomfield for a number of days of patients in the building. And actually what I'm most excited about is in kind of watching our testing of folks that have come to the emergency department. We haven't had anybody test positive now in several days.
Wow.
And so, it's a great thing to see. I'm very excited, and actually was having the conversation with folks earlier today. We're very fortunate to be here in Oakland County because Oakland County has one of the highest vaccination rates in the entire state. And I think we're seeing the benefit of that and the upside of that right now.
So with us right now on the Megacast, Eric Wallis, president for the Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital, and such an important part that you just touched on. But with that, a little bit of hope especially when we go into the summer months, because if last year is any indication, the numbers typically go down in the summertime as well as more people get outdoors. But are you concerned about the variants and people being so relaxed that they feel like COVID is over?
I think it's an interesting question. I think certainly we need to be concerned about the variants, and probably not so much the ones that have come to the scene thus far. We know right now that the Pfizer vaccine, the Moderna vaccine, the J&J vaccine are very effective against the current batch of variants. I think what we have to worry about is the next one that comes. But as long as we haven't reached that high level of folks being vaccinated or quote unquote herd immunity, there is still that opportunity the virus is going to continue to mutate. And we're all hopeful that we don't get to a place where we find a variant that the vaccines aren't effective against. But it's like a lot of other things. If we don't get to a high enough level of vaccination quick enough, it will happen. And so I think that is the worry that we have.
Yeah, and if I can ask you about that, because I do feel individuals such as yourself, you're so much smarter than me and so many of the other members of the general public because of your science background. And we are seeing this vaccination really kind of hesitancy here in the state of Michigan. And if we were to go by the governor's original goal of trying to reach 70%, we're not near there. It's like we are hovering. What do you think it's going to take to get us to that herd immunity?
Well, it's going to get there one of two ways. It's going to get there by vaccination, or it's going to get there by people who have been infected. And so I think that the combination of the two of those things is going to get us to herd immunity. It's just a matter of how long that's going to take. We know when you just look at the number of cases that we've had in the state of Michigan, that a significant portion of the population has been sick or has recovered from COVID-19, and those folks have some level of protection. What we don't know yet is how long does that level of protection last. And you'll see a different story every other day about how long and are we going to need boosters and those kind of things. The reality is that the studies that are being done by Pfizer and Moderna are 2-year studies. And so they're continuing to follow folks that were in that trial phase of their vaccine studies. And what we know at this point is you're protected for at least 6 months. And they're going to keep checking those folks and see how long the protection lasts. So it is possible that it's only going to last 6, 9, 12 months. It's possible it could last multiple years. We just don't know yet. And that's part of the ongoing science that we're going to have to wait for.
Eric Wallis with us here on the Megacast. He's the president for Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital. And if I can ask you about that too, because it is a novel virus. This is new. We're learning as we're going. But just as you said, we don't know. And I will say I had a family member that was positive for COVID-19, lucky enough to be mild symptoms months ago, and then was exposed again, went and had the test, and didn't have any antibodies. And you're looking at a few months. So when you're saying this too, we don't know. So how much do you think that's hurt the confidence from the general public in our healthcare industry?
Yeah, I think it's interesting just because we are in a society today where we put out a lot of information and there's a lot of transparency. And I think sometimes people believe that because we put out what we know today, that it is fact. And so I think your point is a really important one. This is an evolving science. It's a virus we've never seen before. And so, unlike the flu, unlike polio, unlike some of these other things that have been around for eons, this is something we're going to continue to learn about for a number of years. We do know there are studies that have shown now that people who have gotten COVID-19 are still benefit from getting the vaccination. In fact, when you've had COVID-19 and you get the vaccination, you're actually much better protected than even those of us who just have been vaccinated. And so it's kind of a super response that your body has to it. And so it's important for those folks to get vaccinated too. And that's been an evolving understanding as well. So I know people get frustrated with wait, you used to tell us to do this and now you're telling us to do that. But the reality is we're trying to be very transparent and tell you what you know as we learn it.
And I love that you just brought up the point, people who've had COVID, it's just as important for you to get vaccinated as well, because I do think there's been some conversation in the political arena. Well, if you've had COVID, then you have the antibodies, you don't need the vaccination, and that may be contributing to the lower numbers of vaccination within the country as well. And but with that as well, can I just ask you, looking back over the past year, have you ever seen a situation where vaccination has been so politicized?
No, not, and certainly that's one of the more unfortunate things in this is that the science is not political. It shouldn't be political, unfortunately. It is what it is, and I think that if we can all take a step back, and I tell family members and team members alike, just turn off the news. Certainly not Civic Center TV, but turn off the news. Listen to reputable sources. Go to folks when you hear something that doesn't make sense. You got a lot of great resources that are out there. I'm biased. You can go to henryford.com and get all kinds of factual information. But unfortunately, I think we live in a world where too many people don't take a few seconds to actually check what they're hearing. And it spreads like wildfire. And unfortunately, a lot of well-meaning folks have spread things that aren't necessarily true because they haven't taken the time to do the fact checking on it.
Yeah, and we should point out too, we always put the direct links to so many of the resources right on our page as well, because go ahead and take time. Go to the actual direct information. Don't rely on social media or even your local news to try to give you that information, because we know so many times they're limited in the time into which they can give that. But I will say, I had a conversation with a family member, and when the conversation comes up about vaccines, I was like, well, we went to Africa a few years ago. I had to get so many vaccines. I was like, I remember the tray, and there were like 8 needles laying there. And those were required to be able to travel, just like we're seeing now. And all the side effects that we're talking about now with the vaccine. And then also with the J&J, the conversation around the blood clots. And I said, well, for women, so many of us are used to that conversation around taking birth control. So this is not a new conversation.
It's really not. And I think that's what's really so frustrating sometimes for folks that are in the medical field. We've effectively wiped things like measles and polio and smallpox off the face of the planet because of vaccinations. And this is really no different. I continue to stress to folks that, people worry that this is a new vaccine. This technology has been around for over 20 years. We've been treating cancer patients with mRNA technology for over 20 years. The scientists that developed the vaccine started over a decade ago. And so, yes, it's the first time that we've used mRNA in a vaccine. But I think really as you go forward, you're going to see things like the flu vaccine convert to mRNA, because we've learned that it is so safe and it is so effective. I'm excited, as just coming out the other side of this, that we actually have a potential to eliminate flu. If we have the same kind of success with that vaccine as we do with the COVID vaccine. And so I just continue to stress to folks, follow the science. People are doing their very best to put out the right information. But it's a great vaccine. They're very safe and they're very effective.
Eric Wallis with us here on the Megacast, president for the Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital. I'm happy to hear you kind of mention the flu as well, because I feel like we haven't been talking about the flu, but we should understand so many people do die from the flu each and every year. And even when they do die, it doesn't make headlines. So this could save lives on so many different fronts. Eric, before we let you go, just another minute or two with you. At the hospitals, are restrictions starting to ease a little bit regarding visitors?
You betcha. Actually, one of the great things that we've been able to do here at Henry Ford West Bloomfield is we've actually removed all of the restrictions around visitation. Save, you still have to be screened when you come in the building, and you still have to wear a mask when you're in the building. But patients can now have multiple visitors we know that the best thing for our patients is to have their loved ones with them. And so we've really loosened those restrictions. Every hospital is going to be a little bit different based on their circumstances. And so I encourage you to go out to, if you're going to visit a loved one, check the hospital website first. It'll give you a good indication of what's allowed and what's not. But right now here at Henry Ford West Bloomfield, we're back open to, visitation 24 hours a day. We do have restrictions on the entrances to the building, but, people can have their loved ones with us. Really, the only thing that's kind of a restriction at this point is if the patient is COVID positive, then we're limiting visitation with those patients. But there's only 4 of them in the building today, so it's great news.
That must make you feel happy, because what a year you and your staff have been through the past year.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, you can see the relief in folks' faces. You see a lot more. Well, we see a lot more smiles in people's eyes right now, I'll say. But we know every step is one step closer to getting back to normal, and we're back to the place where we do have some activities going on within the building. We're not quite back yet to where we're able to have folks come just visit us for lunch, but that day's coming. So and I think all of those steps are what we need as human beings to get back to normal and to feel like the world has returned to the one we knew.
Fingers crossed. We are definitely on the back end of this pandemic. Eric Wallis with us, President Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital. You and your team have been amazing throughout this entire pandemic. It's been a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, it's we have a lot of folks who have kind of gone through things, the same kind of stresses that you see with folks who are coming back from the military. There's a lot of PTSD that's happened in healthcare as a result of this, and we put a lot of resources in place to support our team. But I think we're kind of at that point now where that light at the end of the tunnel really is a light at the end of the tunnel, and not another train coming. And so that you can see the joy coming back to folks and the work that they get to do. So we're very thankful for that.
Well, let's hope so. And we do know that it's been an extremely stressful time for those that have been on the front lines each and every day. But let's hope that with some of the new programs and also the attention that COVID-19 has put on the healthcare system, that we have more people that want to go in and help save lives and make a difference. So thank you so much for your time. We always appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
We'll be excited on the day that we can talk to you about something other than COVID.
Me too.
Eric Wallis, President, Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital. We'll take a quick break here on the Megacast, and when we come back, we are going to be talking about a new documentary, Right to Read. That's next here on the Megacast.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and experiences connect through conversation, and it feels good.
This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together. Start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
Over a decade ago, the journey to a COVID vaccine began. Building upon research on other coronaviruses, scientists continued with months of research and development, 3 phases of clinical trials with tens of thousands of diverse volunteers, then peer review and authorization to deliver a safe and effective vaccine that will protect all of us. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine. Wearing a mask is more than protection. It's a bridge to better days. The path back to celebrations with family. Nights out on the town with friends. Game days with your favorite sports teams. And the thrill of live concerts. But until we can all get the COVID-19 vaccine and build community immunity, which will take time, we all need to continue to stay careful. Because Michigan's recovery is depending on you, and so are your family, friends, and neighbors. So even after you're vaccinated, wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and social distance. One day in the near future, we will all be able to put this pandemic behind us. But until then, spread hope, not COVID. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Great to have you with us here on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl back here in the studios with Mr. Tyler Keefe. Tyler, I will say, I kind of like working from home.
Yeah, and I can understand. I can understand why that would be the case. It's definitely a different pace doing the show in person here than it is doing it from home in your case.
So I will say though, it's a little bit different for guys, right? So I could always do a new meeting with Zoom to do my hair and makeup so I could see what I look like in camera because the lighting is so different everywhere. And you were only seeing the front of me, so I didn't have to worry about the back of my hair. And shorts, I was always in my gym shorts because I would typically go for a run after the show. So, had to realign the schedule this morning, but still managed to get up early and take a great early morning run, see the deer.
Nice.
The bunnies, the birds. It always is a great way to start your day.
Yes, yeah, good way to start it off, and get reacclimated to your regular schedule here, coming into the studio.
I know, but I will say, for us girls, it's the makeup.
No amount of makeup for me is going to make this acceptable for my face acceptable for television. So.
I always say when I go to the Mac counter to get my husband's makeup, they look at me weird if I get a new person. I've been going there for years, so they understand. When I buy my husband's makeup, but when I get a new person, they'll look at me and they'll say, "Oh, I think that might be a little dark for you." I'm like, "Oh no, I plan to get a tan this summer."
Oh boy.
You gotta have fun.
Yeah, you gotta mess with people sometimes.
Guys have to wear makeup too.
Of course.
Hey, but I will say if we can kind of shift subjects a little bit. One thing that I really hope that comes out of this pandemic is that we really start focusing on our education and our children and their ability to read, because this has been a crisis prior to the pandemic, but I think the pandemic has helped highlight the situation, and what I hope doesn't happen is that it goes by the wayside. And I will say there are two advocates here to really try to fight this issue here in Michigan, but also across the country, but to bring a face and a voice to so many of the people that can't read. We're excited to bring in Pamela Good. It's always great to have you. We've had you several times before. You're the president Beyond Basics. And Nicole Nicole, how do you pronounce your last name?
Zaremba. You got the Z part. You nailed that.
I know.
Part.
I will say I did Google it this morning, but that was like at 6:45.
I get it. Don't worry.
Nicole, but it's great to have you with us as well. You are also a producer and a director for WKAR. The great thing is that you guys are trying to work together to bring a face to this problem. And because we know, I feel like if we can really reach the heartstrings of regular people in America, they can understand this problem and we can fix it for once and beyond. So before we get into the documentary, Pamela, can we talk to you a little bit more about how you even became a part of this project?
Well, we became a part of it. I guess probably, Nicole, it'd be best if you answer that, because I think you reached out to us. So I'm not sure how you heard about us, but Nicole reached out and we were pleased to participate. So
with that, Nicole, tell us more about the documentary.
So at WKAR, we are a PBS station, so we have a big education on focus, especially with children's media. So I was charged with producing this documentary on childhood literacy in the state of Michigan. And so I was Googling all these organizations within the state that have been very proactive in this issue. And Pamela's organization came up, and thankfully I reached out to her. She had some great stories. There's some really fascinating and interesting people that have gone through the program. And she's a great representative and advocate. So it was an easy fit.
Yeah, we are so lucky to have Pamela and Beyond Basics in our community. But if I can ask you as well, Nicole, as someone who was assigned this project, what was the biggest thing you learned from taking part and jumping into it?
Well, what I think I've learned the most too is what what Beyond Basics is doing, we're one aspect in that we can teach children how to read. And one line that Pamela delivered in the film, and Pamela, you might say it better than I can here, is that we can fix it with intensive one-on-one training, an hour a week for 6 weeks, and get these kids up to reading level. And still that sticks out in my head, that it can be fixed even if they are in middle school or high school or older, that they can still learn, even though our educational system is not set up for that.
So with that, Pamela, do you think now is the right time for this story to be told because of COVID-19 and the conversation happening around the learning? Some are saying learning loss, others are saying learning delay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it's a perfect time to start addressing this. One is you have attention in vulnerable communities where really you have, 80 to 90% of students in low performing, communities. I said that wrong. You have 80 to 90% of kids in vulnerable communities who are performing lowly, and so we have that attention of them. And it's interesting, people really aren't talking about literacy in the right way. They're talking about education loss. But the population that we're talking about that can't read in school, they don't fall behind more other than the grade ahead. I mean, without this pandemic, we wouldn't be talking about kids falling behind more and more each year. Am I explaining that right? Yeah. So you have learning loss of the material that's covered in a year, which honestly can be easily recovered if you're a reader, if you're already reading. And so they're talking about catching kids up academically. And I'm hoping that we can expand that conversation to now talk about what truly holds them behind. This was an epidemic before the pandemic. And so if we can kind of be close to what they're seeing and expand it so that they can see this epidemic has been going on for years. And if I could just add something, I stumbled across a report that I read years ago. There was a national study done on this. There's a report called A Nation at Risk in 1983. Addressing these very issues of illiteracy and the impact, and saying it was an emergency that we address it. We did not address it as a nation. So I hope that this pandemic can shine light on it and we can get going.
And with that too, Pamela, when you reread a report from so many years ago and you see a lot hasn't changed, does it break your heart? Like, we have not made progress in this arena.
Yes, it does break my heart. And really, I realized the moment that we started getting kids reading at grade level and society, our communities were not embracing it readily. I mean, the fact of what Nicole said, that we can demonstrate that we can take a child who can't read and get them to be a reader in an average of 6 weeks, and our society didn't embrace it. I've been speaking about this since then, 2009. And still, so it's the issue about our society, and the more people like you, Ronnie, and you, Nicole, that can start telling this story to break through that. I think that we have become a society of symptom relief, and there are cures, and we need to embrace these cures. And the other thing that the pandemic, interestingly enough, has afforded us, in Nolan Finley's word, is COVID cash. Yes. This is an expensive project. It's one-on-one intensive tutoring per child, and essentially everybody attending K-12 education right now. But they have the money. They have the money at the state level, the money that's flowing through the schools. And so we can look back on this crisis in 3 to 5 years if we invest those dollars and really make sure that they're used for intensive one-on-one tutoring.
Pamela, Nicole, before we get back to you, Pamela, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because we're hearing and seeing the headlines where millions and billions of dollars are going to our schools. And this to me seems like a perfect opportunity. Before, when schools were saying they were cash strapped and they couldn't afford these programs, this is one of the programs where the money seems to need to really be going, because it's going to pay off as a community down the road.
Yeah, absolutely it will. If we can leave this pandemic and have it take along with it the cure for illiteracy, boy, is that a huge win for our society all across America. I know we've highlighted the issues in Detroit and this state, but our educational model and this flaw is the same across the nation. And so it could be a huge win for all of us.
Yeah, I think education is going to look a lot different coming out of the pandemic. Prior, 1 year ago, a year and 3 months ago, we were talking about, trying to learn online and this, that, and the other. People would have been up in arms. No way would that happen. But now is the time to talk about thinking outside the box. Yes. And if I can ask you too, Pamela, could this fall under the guidance of where some of this COVID cash can actually be applied?
We absolutely fit with all of the criteria, from the ones that say lasting impact. It's definitely a fit for where money can be spent. And we just hope that those decisions are made wisely and it's directed. It's quick. They're going to be allocated quickly. So that is the issue, going against us right now. But I hope so.
Fingers crossed, too. And I will say to anyone out there right now, especially people with kids, or even if you don't have kids, this impacts all of us, contact your local representatives and make sure that this is a part of the conversation. Nicole, if I can kind of bring you back into the conversation, tell us more about The Right to Read, the documentary, and the process that it was to be able to get this project completed.
Sure. Well, I mean, we working under COVID restrictions. Most of it was done on Zoom, as you can tell. It was over a series of months. It actually started before the pandemic. So there is a little bit in the documentary where it was before the pandemic. And it's interesting because one of the principals at the local elementary school in Lansing said, we don't know what this law will mean, referring to the third grade reading law, which I don't know if we hit on that yet.
So as a matter of fact, do you want to go ahead and talk about that? So Michigan has what is often referred to as the third grade reading law, and it was suspended during COVID. But for those not familiar with it, bring us up to speed. Because it's a vital part of the conversation in the movie, right?
Right. So all children within the state of Michigan that are in third grade take the M step. And Pamela, feel free to jump in as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
And if they fail to meet grade level, they will be retained for the following school year. So this year, I believe it was suspended because of the pandemic. They still did take it. My daughter just took it. She's in the third grade. So, but actually just heard on the radio this morning that they are not going to do the retention part this year, that they might do it for fourth graders next year, because the state of Michigan did file an appeal, the Michigan Department of Education with the U.S. Department of Education to waive the test. And the U.S. Department of Education said no. But then for some reason, I just heard the news this morning that now they're waiving the retention part. So
it really is kind of a crazy law, but as you were interviewing the families and really doing a deep dive into this topic, what are your takeaways, or what are the takeaways that you want the general public to have from this film?
Well, I mean, I think it's a challenge. I mean, really, it does fall on parents and teachers, especially during this pandemic. I mean, as like a single mom working at home myself with a daughter in third grade, like the pressure was like intense, like trying to teach her and then work. And so, I mean, that was just a taste of it. So I can't imagine for, real mothers that are financially strapped, or mothers that are financially strapped, or families that are financially strapped, to try to educate their children as well. Like, we as a community have to step up, like we as individuals. Why aren't we doing more? And is it just because we feel like, we don't want to get in other people's business or that sort of thing? But it is really a community issue.
You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. We're running a little bit behind, so my apologies for the station ID. And also, though, Nicole, you have such a great viewpoint on this project, because as you just mentioned, you're also a mother of a third grader. When you were talking to some of the families, what did it mean to you, and what message do you want to share?
Sure. I mean, I think the purpose of, what we do, especially in public media, is to give a different perspective, or just to see, how somebody else lives their life, or what does somebody else feel. So I would hope that, that viewers can take away their own message. I wasn't trying to say you should believe this or you should believe that, but just walk away with it with a sense of empathy, real, I get that. That could be difficult. That could be hard. What could I do to help? That ultimately,
I also wonder, too, how different it is for our kids today. Pamela, I think I shared this story with you before. For me growing up, every Saturday morning, I went to the public library, and that was my alone time, and I could check out my books. I had my first library card at a young age. Nancy Drew, I really thought I was going to grow up to be the next Nancy Drew, and even charged my classmates 5 cents to try to figure out their mysteries of, the little kids that sent the messages, do you like me, yes or no? 5 cents, and I'll figure out who wrote that. No, but reading in books have been such an important part of my life. But we're looking at a different age right now, too. Technology. I feel like kids don't have that opportunity to go to the library. And I know it's different because they can download books as well. But there's something about going to the library, getting those picture books from a young age. How do you see this transforming how we read and how we teach our kids? Is it going to be a plus or a minus, Pamela?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that, it's going to be up to us ultimately. I think that technology brings all kinds of great resources. They're at our fingertips. But you do lose that relationship with a book and a story in the way when we can hold on to it. Because of technology, you would think that reading is less important, but really it's more important. We're so much relying on just a quick look at, even, how to find, how to drive your car and where to go. And, so it's everywhere right now. Reading hasn't gone, the needing to read hasn't gone away because of technology. And I hope that it doesn't, as they start using all these symbols on Microsoft and these programs. I wonder if they're trying to move us towards that. But there's nothing like sitting next to somebody, when you're a child, and having somebody read you a story, tell you stories. And so I think as we move forward in society, we have this opportunity now. Are we going to bring those libraries? Are we going to bring opportunities to tell stories together, and all of the enrichment that goes with that? Or is it just a word on a page? And we get to decide. Isn't that great?
It really is. And, I will say to everyone, we are so blessed, though, to live in America, to have the education system that we have. I know that a few years ago when we went to Kenya, the kids, their classroom was really, a dirt floor with tin sheeting. And my niece and her, classmates raised money to build a school for the girls that are rescued from FGM. But you go through the city of Detroit and you see these school buildings that have been closed and shuttered, and all that education and opportunity that was left behind these doors. And we are so blessed to have these books, and we just need to really embrace it, and also embrace these kids that are having trouble reaching out and taking advantage of everything that's available to us. Nicole, tell us more. When is the movie going to air, and how can people watch it?
Sure. It airs June 3rd on WKAR, the Lansing PBS station, and we are offering it to all the PBS stations throughout the state as well. So hopefully Detroit Public TV will be airing that. We share a lot of the same programming. And nationally. But if you want to watch it directly, it's on our website, WKAR.org, video.WKAR.org, and you can just watch it online. And I would suggest that would probably be the easiest way.
What a project that you've had such the blessing and opportunity to take part of. Pamela, any last words as well?
Well, I guess I just want to end with highlighting the students that we were able to get reading to, that Nicole and this team highlighted them in this story, because that's what it's all about. It's about the Kashan who could attend university. And it's about, Taylor Rice, who could actually become a tutor to help others learn to read. And so their stories are why we need to do this for so many more kids who are trapped in a broken system. So I thank you both for highlighting this issue, and look forward to the day it's behind us.
Oh, won't that be the best thing to come out of the pandemic, is if we can fix this problem?
Yes, that would.
Pamela Reed with us, Nicole Zaremba. She is Right to Read is going to be the documentary again Thursday, June 3rd at 9:30 p.m. And also, if we could encourage everyone as well, take a little bit of time and reach out to your elected leaders and let them know how important this topic is for all of us, not just those with kids, but those without kids. It impacts us as a community as well. We want to thank you for both of you for your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and when we come back, we're going to go splashing in the water. It's a great day to be outdoors. We'll be joined with the West Bloomfield Parks Department and over at the new Lily Pad Springs. That's over there just around the corner from us, Tyler. Next here on the Megacast.
In times like these, we have to believe in each other.
And we believe that you'll do the right thing
when it comes to stopping the spread of COVID.
Follow the 3 W's.
Wear a mask.
Wash your hands.
Watch your distance.
And when it's your turn to get the vaccine, take your shot.
It all comes down to the golden rule.
Treat others the way you want to be treated.
We're so close, Michigan.
We can do this together.
Quitting smoking can improve your health, but it also protects your loved ones from secondhand smoke. Did you know there's no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke? Smoke from cigarettes, e-cigs, and hookah can travel through ventilation systems and harm those around you. So clear the air and stop secondhand smoke. Call the Michigan Tobacco Quit Line at 1-800-784-8669. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Over a decade ago, the journey to a COVID vaccine began. Building upon research on other coronaviruses, scientists continued with months of research and development, 3 phases of clinical trials with tens of thousands of diverse volunteers, then peer review and authorization to deliver a safe and effective vaccine that will protect all of us. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine. Wearing a mask is more than protection. It's a bridge to better days. The path back to celebrations with family. Nights out on the town with friends. Game days with your favorite sports teams. And the thrill of live concerts. But until we can all get the COVID-19 vaccine and build community immunity, which will take time, we all need to continue to stay careful, because Michigan's recovery is depending on you, and so are your family, friends, and neighbors. So even after you're vaccinated, wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and social distance. One day in the near future, we will all be able to put this pandemic behind us. But until then, spread hope, not COVID. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
I want to get back to seeing my grandbabies every Sunday and smothering them with big hugs and kisses.
I want to get back to football games with my boys.
I want to get back to feeling and touching, connecting with the people around me.
I want to get back to family dinners and my grandma's mac and cheese.
I want to get back to real grocery shopping, taking my time, walking down every aisle, smelling the tomatoes and melons, having a free sample or 2 or 3.
COVID-19 has changed how we live and how we feel. But now, there are vaccines. And they are the first step that let us get back to feeling optimistic about the days ahead of us. It's okay to have questions.
Is it safe?
Should I get it?
Should I wait?
Now, get the facts. Learn more at getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Great to have you with us here on the Tuesday edition of the Megacast. I almost said Monday.
You know, I keep thinking it's a Monday also, Ronnie. It's a weird feeling today.
Well, it's good for all of us that work a normal schedule. Is going to be a short week this week. As a reminder, you can always catch Tyler and myself 11 or 10 a.m. rather until noon. Civic Center TV, Birmingham area municipal access. You can also catch us channel 15 on Comcast 99 on AT&T. Listen to us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM, The Biff. 2 weeks ago, 90 degrees on the weekend. Last weekend, not the best weather, although I will say yesterday the sandbar in Cass Lake was absolutely packed. Well, the water was cold, though.
Of course. Yeah.
We took Trixie over to Dodge Park, and I was like, whoo, only going in up to my ankles.
Yeah, not quite time for the water just yet.
But the rest of this week is supposed to be absolutely beautiful. A great day to go splash in the water. Joining us now, we're excited to bring in Kelly Heyer. She's the recreational superintendent over at the West Bloomfield Parks Department, live from the brand new Lily Pad Springs grand opening. Great to have you with us.
Good morning.
I love your shirt. It's like tie-dyed and the colors to match the background.
Absolutely. We do branding well here.
So with that, this is a project that has been years in the making. What's it like to be standing there, Kelly, on the very first day and the very first hours of it being open to the public?
It is exhilarating. I couldn't even sleep last night.
So with that, for those that may not be familiar with the Lily Pad Springs, although we've talked about it quite often here on the Megacast, give us a little bit on the project and also what it took to get to this day.
Sure. So we're located at 6200 Farmington Road. So those of you remember, this used to be the Potomac Club. In the late 90s, the West Bloomfield Parks Commission acquired the property and opened the Family Aquatic Center, which we took down in 2017. And here we are. This is what we imagined the space to be. And finally, is a few years, with a year delayed with COVID, we were able to open on time. A little bit delayed. We originally wanted Memorial Day. But yeah. Today is our first day of operation.
Well, it is so great. It's the largest splash pad in the state of Michigan, 5,500 square feet of fun there right around the corner from us here at Civic Center TV. What has been the response been from the public?
Oh, they couldn't wait. And in fact, with the delay last year, it was disappointed a lot of people, including ourselves, but that's okay because it gave us time to really make the space what we wanted it. And all winter last year, we tried to think of all the finishing details. And here we are today. Residents, you can pre-register online for the 11 o'clock a.m. session. Otherwise, anybody can register for the 1:30 or the 4 o'clock. And we are doing pre-registration right now. So you can get your tickets. The tickets are on sale through the day before at noon. So they do cut off at noon the day before. But yeah, we have heard nothing but pure excitement. Every time we post about Lily Pad Springs, every time we talk about it, it is pretty amazing, the response.
Kelly Heyer with us here on the Megacast. She's the recreation superintendent over at the West Bloomfield Parks Department, live with us this morning from the Lily Pad Springs grand opening. The kids look like they're having so much fun behind you.
They are. Can you see them behind me?
We can. But so much fun, but there's a lot of work to go into this design.
That's right, because we have not only the spray park, what they're playing on, and all the features that go into the spray park planning. So we had to figure out, okay, what size deck do we want? Do we want spray grounds? What were the features? So that took a lot of decision making. We also have a large maintenance building. All of the behind the scenes filters and pumps needed to have a great space. We needed to plan out bathrooms, sidewalks, parking, landscaping. There's so many decisions that go with opening up a property like this. even though there was a footprint of a previous building.
So with that too, Kelly, if I can ask you, today in the state of Michigan, we have a loosening of restrictions, but still, what does the COVID-19 protocols look like there at Lily Pad Springs?
Well, two ways it affected us this June 1st lift, so to speak, is capacities. We can go back to our original capacity of 150 people on the pad. We are right now keeping tickets at a lower number just to give staff some practice and get 2 weeks under our belts before we opened up to full capacity. And then secondly, that meant no masks outdoors. So with the outdoor recreation, all the mask restrictions were lifted. And so we were able to go into this and remove all of our mask required signage and planning for the mask.
Because we know it's a little hard to swim in a mask.
Yeah.
Although it would make for
in fact,
some interesting tan lines.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, and even though you're not fully submersed in water except at the bottom of the slides, you can get pretty drenched in the water for sure.
Well, Kelly, I will say, typically I'm not a planner. The one thing that's come out of COVID-19, it has taught us we have to plan. You have to make reservations. You have to do this. You have to do this due to the capacity limits. How are the reservations looking for the rest of this week?
Well, I believe last time I looked, we do have some sold out weekends. So if you're planning on coming out for the weekends, definitely look ahead. But we do have availability during the week. So again, pick a day. We do have an entire list of frequently asked questions. So all the moms, grandparents, dads, aunts, uncles that are wanting to come out, go ahead and read through all of our questions. It talks about inclement weather, it talks about refunds, or if you need to change up your times. We try to address all of those questions online. So again, we try to think of everything before you come. But yeah, we'd love to have you out. In fact, we're anticipating over 60,000 visitors this summer is our goal.
Wow. And do you think too, this summer, emerging out of the pandemic, it's going to be busier than maybe a regular summer just because so many people want to get outside?
Absolutely. Outside is local, and we're on the southern half of West Bloomfield Township, so we are seeing some interest from the townships that do surround us on the southern border. So it'll be interesting, but come on out. Please take a look, and we're open at our office for questions, 8 a.m. to 4:30, always available on our website. But we have, like I said earlier, 3 time slots for Lily Pad Springs, 11, 1:30, or 4 p.m., and they're 2-hour visits. So when you talk about pre-registration, Ronnie, that's a great question. You can sign up for per session, 2 hours at a time.
And so with that too, if I can ask you, what is the cost and what is the age limit?
Sure, it's for any ages, but if you're going to be on the pad, we ask wristbands are for 6 months and older. So if you have a smaller infant than less than 6 months, you are not required to purchase a wristband. And in your party, you need to have at least one adult purchase a wristband. And the households are limited to 10 wristbands at this time, 10 wristbands per household. But really, as you can see, even parents are enjoying it. And I would say the target audience is preschool, lower elementary. Is that what we're anticipating this summer to be our visitors?
Kelly, I will say too, anyone out there with a kid I can borrow, maybe rent them out and take them, because I feel like as an adult, you're weird if you go by yourself, Tyler.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I can agree with that.
I need a kid to take.
And you don't need a wristband if you're not going to be on the pad. So Ronnie, Tyler, come on out. You can stand on the outside of the black fence and check it out, and it won't be weird, I promise.
Oh, no, I want to get in the water. If I'm coming, I want to get wet.
Oh, you do? Okay. Well, then maybe you want to find some friends, neighbors. Yeah.
Kelly Heyer with us here on the Megacast. She's the recreation superintendent for the West Bloomfield Parks Department. Today is the grand opening for the Lily Pad Springs, which is located right there on Farmington Road. It is the largest splash pad in the state of Michigan. It's been a project in the works for years now, and we're so excited to see it open up and running. Today is the first day. It is going to be a lot of fun for so
Mother
many people.
Nature.
I know. This week is going to be great.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Kelly, again, what's the website if people want to sign up?
wbparks.org/lilypadsprings.
And the price?
$4 per resident, $6 per non-resident.
That is so awesome. Well, have fun out there. We expect you to go splashing.
Oh, you bet.
Kelly Heyer, again, thank you for your time. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we'll be talking about summertime scams. That's next here on the Megacast.
Finally, I just got my COVID-19 vaccine.
I registered with my local health department and they called me.
I got mine at the pharmacy, and my neighbor got hers from the hospital.
I'm not a techie person, so I called the COVID hotline, and they helped me schedule an appointment.
Get vaccinated with the first vaccine you can. Protect us all.
Learn more at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine.
Quitting smoking can improve your health, but it also protects your loved ones from secondhand smoke. Did you know there's no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke? Smoke from cigarettes, e-cigs, and hookah can travel through ventilation systems and harm those around you. So clear the air and stop secondhand smoke. Call the Michigan Tobacco Quit Line at 1-800-784-8669. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
We want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us here on the Megacast. Tyler and I are here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. You can also catch us on cable. Channel 15 if you have Comcast, 99 on AT&T, or you can listen to us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff, and we are also live streaming today's edition of the Megacast on our Facebook page. One thing that has not taken a break throughout this pandemic, Tyler, scam artists.
Nope, never do.
They have been busier than ever, and now we're going into the summer months, and they are changing some of their MO. With us now, Melanie Duquesnel. She's the president and CEO for the Michigan Better Business Bureau. Melanie, always great to have you. We learn so much every time you come on.
Yeah, I get to scare everybody every day. It's a great job.
You know what, though? It really is sad that we even need you and people such as yourself, you know, because these scam artists, if they would just put this much effort into real business adventures, they would be so successful.
Absolutely. And I humbly assert that the common cold would go away and cancer would go away because people would have found a better way to treat those ailments. But in the meantime, we do what we can to educate and defend our community the best we can.
Well, you and your team, you have not had a break throughout this entire year because while all of us have been forced online, that has really opened up so many people to new and more ingenious scams as well.
Absolutely. So the one that we are bringing to everybody today is what's called smishing, SMISHING. And what that is for short message service, or SMS. And what they do is that they generally use texting to notify people of opportunities to be scammed, mind you, but opportunities. So Amazon has really been hacked. Their brand has really suffered from that because somebody ordered a package and it's going to be delivered. However, we kind of messed up. So we need your credit card information, or we need your phone number, or they need data in order to complete the delivery. First and foremost, if you didn't order anything from Amazon, probably nobody else did that for you either. So don't respond. 2, if you did order from Amazon, go to the Amazon website and go through your own account before you do that. And 3, never respond to a text you have no idea where it's from. And the main reason is that the minute you do that, you have told the scam artist this is a live number. And that also goes for responding to a telephone call or a voicemail. The minute you respond or the minute you pick up from a phone number that you have no idea who it is, you have indicated to that scam artist, hey, there's a live person on the other end and we're going to keep calling.
And they do. I will say, after my husband was scammed, we changed our home number. We actually still had a landline, and we have not had any phone calls since then, because we also don't use that number for any type of marketing. I don't even know the number. It's written on a board. But it's amazing how you look at the changes. But talking about some of these companies, though, Amazon, Netflix, they really do look real and legitimate, though.
Right. They're able to, the scam artists are able to go out to Google and co-opt the brand logo and put it in their text or put it in their email, and it looks very legitimate. However, some of them, in particular the one I got for Netflix, had a couple of typos in it because they're usually done offshore. They're not normally done in the US. They're done by out-of-country people. So they don't have a huge command of the English language. That's your first red flag. In fact, there's been a little bit different, but there's been a little bit of misspelled words in my gaming app when they are suggesting other games. If you watch those games, that they can't spell the word people to save their souls. So, you have to be aware of what people are soliciting to you and beware of those situations.
We're speaking with Melanie Duquesnel. She's the president and CEO for the Michigan Better Business Bureau here in our area. And with that, Melanie, should we also mention, we're going into the summer months. Do you anticipate new and different scams coming up?
Well, summertime always brings the same kind of scams, but they're usually related to a different service. So door-to-door salesmen crop up because for some reason door-to-door people don't like the snow very much. So when it starts to warm up, they're more than willing to go out and hang door hangers to try to talk to you. 1, I give everybody permission not to answer their door if they're not expecting anybody. Mm-hmm. Because the minute you do, you've opened up, again, you've told the person, and not all door-to-door people, I must say, are scam artists. But if you are not looking forward to having your roof done or your driveway seal coated or anything like that, that's your first line of defense. And what we have found, actually, I just got a complaint forwarded to me this morning of a landscaping company that took the entire season's worth of payments up front, mowed the particular homeowner's lawn a couple of times, and has not since shown up.
Huh.
So don't pay in advance. Pay by the day or week of the service. Several legitimate companies, and I'll use my example, True Green. We have the opportunity to pay all up front, or we have the ability to pay weekly or at application. Now you're going to pay a couple dollars more by doing it that way, but at the end of the day, you're assured that you're only paying for the service that you've received.
Melanie Duquesnel with us here on the Megacast, president and CEO for the Michigan Better Business Bureau. I'm seeing a lot of, it seems like people being scammed when it comes to Airbnbs or renting properties right now, because so many people are starting to get out, they're starting to travel more. Some of them still aren't comfortable with maybe going to a hotel, so they think Airbnbs are the way to go.
Right. So there's Airbnb and VRBO. So I believe, and I apologize, I have not looked at Airbnb, but I do know that VRBO provides for a very small dollar amount, a little insurance policy. So because both of these organizations do not go out and walk through each property. They are essentially listing services that provide you the opportunity to use this property, but recognize they don't vet them. So what you can do is acquire that insurance policy, and heaven forbid you show up and that property doesn't exist, or the quality that they indicated is not there. VRBO will provide you similar opportunities to find another place to be. It might actually be a hotel, so beware of that. Be aware of that. And but it's kind of that safety net. Heaven forbid things don't go perfectly. The other thing about both Airbnb and VRBO is that you do not pay with a check. Don't pay with cash. Because again, if something goes wrong, or for whatever reason, you don't get your deposits back because of a change, and if their profile says that if you cancel within a certain timeline in advance, you should be getting all of your deposit back, you have the leverage with your credit card company to tell them, hey, I didn't get what I was supposed to get, and they'll refund you the money.
And that is so important as well, because we do see some people are listing properties that aren't even theirs. They're not even really for rent. I mean, it's one thing, Google Earth is a great thing, but it can also be a downside, because you can just go on, pull an image of a picture and throw it up there and kind of go that route.
Well, and in that mindset, think about it. Look at the image that you have for that listing on whatever the site is, and then go to Google Earth and pull it up and see if it looks the same. Because there's a chance that it isn't. There are some hackers that are not that good to go, hey, I'm going to pick out this gorgeous house in Birmingham and I'm going to slap it on my listing. Some will just say, hey, I'm going to pull this and I'm going to still give you this address. So, you know, you got to do a little bit of hard work. You got to do a little bit of heavy lifting. But in the long run, you're going to save yourself time, money, and aggravation.
I can't imagine renting a property and then showing up and finding out it's not available or it doesn't exist, especially if you have kids in tow.
Oh, gosh. I actually did it for a BBB conference in Denver a couple of years ago, and I had the wrong, I actually rented a condo, and I had the wrong condo number, and it took me a couple of phone calls because the code for the box that I thought I was in was wrong. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've just been scammed. Where am I going to stay? And, you know, again, having the right numbers, having the paperwork with you when you're traveling is imperative. So, you know, one of the other things that has happened actually to a friend of mine is that they had all that information in their phone. Problem was that the travel went so long and they used up all their battery, their phone was dead, and they had no means to get a hold of the owner. So having the old-fashioned paper version might be in your best interest in the long run.
So with that, Melanie, too, I know that in the beginning and even in the middle of this COVID-19 crisis, we have seen some pretty creative scams out there surrounding COVID-19. And just as the virus has evolved, some of these scams have evolved. Any new ones that people should be aware of as some of these restrictions are starting to be lifted?
Well, there's one that still lingers, and that is getting the vaccine for cheap. Now, mind you, there are people that do not have insurance, so they think that they need to pay. But to my knowledge, as of this point, if you show up, the state of Michigan is going to cover the cost of your vaccination. So there was a scam artist that was literally flying around the U.S. dispensing vaccines, but did not have the authority or the actual vaccine. But he was charging up to $5,000 per person.
What?
For this fake vaccine. Yep.
You know what's so amazing is that I'm like, with those people, how do you sleep at night?
Right.
Karma.
Yeah. And I'm a firm believer of what goes around comes around. You keep dishing that out, it's going to come and bite you later.
It really is sad. You know what? And with that too, Melanie, if I can ask you, what is kind of the process behind the scenes for you and your team?
In the sense of?
When you get a complaint and how to investigate them.
Sure. So BBB has been doing dispute resolution for over 100 years. So if you should have a complaint about a company, one, make sure you have all the paperwork in hand. So if you have had somebody quote you a job and you don't like the price, but you don't do work with them, that is not what we consider a marketplace transaction. There actually has to be a transaction that occurs. So you order something online, you don't get it, but yet your credit card is charged. That's a transaction. You would go to bbb.org and click, there's a tile that says file a complaint, and go through the process of filling that out. And if for whatever reason some of your viewers do not have a computer, they can call our office and we can send them out a paper version of a complaint, and they can write it out and send it back in our postage paid envelope. So they don't even have to come up with a stamp. We'll take care of that for them. But all in all, we are trying to make that collection of data easy. At that point, then we go to the business and say, hey, this happened. Can you talk to us about this? And in some cases, the consumer is misunderstanding what the business was going to do. In some cases, we don't get the business to respond at all. And then I would have to say in many of our cases, the business goes, yeah, that happened. We didn't want it to happen. We're trying to resolve it. We just don't know where to start. And that's where we come in. We try to be Switzerland in this process. We try to be neutral and try to guide the business and the consumer toward the middle so they can say that they've come to some resolution. It may not be perfect, but it's some resolution.
So with that, as we go into the summer months and people start to hire contractors and businesses, what is the best way for them to go about that to make sure they're getting reliable, legitimate people, especially now in COVID, because we are hearing nightmare stories with contractors. And again, a lot of it is, like you said, it's not that they're not trying to do the work. Some of them are just so backed up as well.
Well, I'm going to tell you, an average contractor that is BBB accredited is averaging 35 to 65 days in advance of, booking any new deals. So you're looking at potentially most of the summer that they're already got contracts in place.
Wow.
I'll use my example. My tree trimmer will not be out until July, and we contracted them in May.
Wow.
So recognize that there are lead times and everything, but as you're starting to identify the project, interview 3 separate companies, preferably BBB accredited, because they've gone through and they are abiding in our 8 standards of trust. And at that point, compare the quotes. Make sure that the scope of service is exactly the same. And if it isn't, question that particular business what the difference is and why they're doing it differently. Because there's, oh gosh, that's a horrible cliche. I was going to say one way to skin the blah, but there's there's certainly one way or 2 ways to do this. So recognizing that not every project is cookie cutter, knowing the difference, because somebody may be doing your basement waterproofing and trenching around your entire foundation. The other company may just be spraying some kind of sealant inside your basement. So recognize the difference, and then you can start to make some really educated decisions. But get 3 quotes at minimum.
Yeah, I heard on one of those home improvement shows, they were saying sometimes the lowest quote and the highest quotes aren't necessarily the best ones to go with. It may be that middle quote. Yep. But again, it's trying to understand exactly what the work is.
And then always get referrals. If it's a visual type project and you want to see what it looks like, ask them a place that the homeowner would allow you to at least drive by, or that you could talk to them over the phone and see if they can allow you to have that happen as well.
I know for us, we have like a neighborhood chat. I'm in a subdivision, and it's constant. Hey, does anyone have a painter? Does anyone have a landscaper? Does anyone have a tree trimmer? And that word of mouth, because good and bad as well, is really valuable right now.
Right. And the other thing that you want to do is that when you get to that point where you're close to picking one or the other, get a copy of their contract up front. Read it word for word. Some of it you may not understand. And when you don't understand, stick your hand up and say, what do you mean here? And then look at their guarantees. What does a guarantee really, really mean? There are some guarantees that are written specifically for the benefit of the business. And if you don't understand that, you may think you're getting this, wonderful ironclad guarantee, and it's really not. So again, understand what you're committing to so you don't get surprised later on.
And I will say, for so many people, when you're trying to look up some of these contractors, depending on the industry, you can look to see if their license is up to date through the state of Michigan. It's a quick search through Lara, but also you can do a search on, try to figure out what community they're from, if it's Oakland County, Wayne County, and do a quick search. It's a free search through the court documents as well.
But you can also go to bbb.org too, or call us and we will help you identify that as well.
That is so good, because it's heartbreaking when you have these contractors that really scam people, especially elderly people as well.
Yeah.
So with that, Melanie, anything else maybe we didn't touch on that you want to warn people or give them a heads up about as we go into the summer months?
Well, as I started the whole process with smishing, recognize that 97% of Americans have something of a mobile phone. And when you're looking at that and you're looking at text message scams, it's so prevalent. And texting for most people seems a little bit more personal than an email.
Yeah.
And so they want to trust it a little bit more. Still beware. Be careful, beware. If UPS says that they're delivering a package and you didn't order anything, don't click it. Go to ups.com and look it up, but do not click that link, because they'll start to data mine your mobile phone and try to see what they can get out of it to use it for their purposes, not yours.
I almost got caught in that with Amazon because it looked so real. And then I was like, wait a minute, stop. And then went to Amazon. I was like, I didn't order anything in Florida to have it delivered in Florida. Come on. So such good advice. We always appreciate your time, and we'll be excited about the one day that maybe you guys are out of business, because that means we have honest and ethical people running businesses.
It'd be after I retire, though, please.
I don't know where we'll get there, though, but it would be nice if we did, though, wouldn't it?
Trustworthy marketplace. That's what we've been driving for 100 years.
And BBB has always been such a valuable voice and resource for so many people in the community. We just really need people to take a few minutes and do their homework.
Right. And if you have any questions, just give us a shout or go to bbb.org, either one.
Well, Melanie, again, we always appreciate your time, but also your heads up. Always learn something new when we talk with you. So we appreciate your time.
All righty. Be safe and be well. Enjoy the weather.
You too, Melanie Duquesnel, President and CEO for the Michigan's Better Business Bureau. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. Just about 15 minutes left here in the show. And when we come back, we'll be checking in with our good friend, Debbie Binder, over at the clerk's office. This is the Megacast.
COVID-19 has caused many families to fall behind on finances and on groceries. But you're not alone. You shouldn't have to worry about putting food on the table. My Bridges offers access to quality food and income assistance to help families across the state get the food support they need. It's easy to apply and easy to start shopping. Apply for services at michigan.gov/MIBridges. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
I want to get back to seeing my grandbabies every Sunday and smothering them with big hugs and kisses.
I want to get back to football games with my boys.
I want to get back to feeling and touching, connecting with the people around me.
I want to get back to family dinners and my grandma's mac and cheese.
I want to get back to real grocery shopping. Taking my time, walking down every aisle, smelling the tomatoes and melons, having a free sample or two, or 3.
COVID-19 has changed how we live and how we feel. But now, there are vaccines. And they are the first step that let us get back to feeling optimistic about the days ahead of us. It's okay to have questions.
Is it safe?
Should I get it?
Should I wait?
Now, get the facts. Learn more at getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Great to have you with us here on the Megacast. Tyler, I know this is weird, but the favorite feature I think we have in our house is the water dispenser coming out of the refrigerator door. We never had that growing up. Like, we had to make ice cubes.
Of course, yeah.
And I'm always like, it is such a big thing to not have to do bottled water anymore. We're trying to be, socially conscious and not use plastic bottles. And so I can always fill up my water, but I put so much ice in, I ran out of water.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's the thing with drinking the water from a reusable bottle like that in the summers, that you're trying to put more ice in there and make it colder, keep it colder consistently, but then you're parched because it's warm outside and you're moving around all the time, and so you go through it real quick. It's always something.
It really is one of those little things, but when you stop to add it up, it saves you so much money from not stopping to buy bottled water, which, me, I used to always stop just to get the Smart bottled water because they had the animals and they were cute animals, like the toad.
Yeah.
It was like,
you gotta do it for the toad. Yeah.
Recycle. Be totally awesome. And
okay.
now they just have the goldfish, so.
No, who cares about goldfish?
I'll just get the filtered water free out of my refrigerator.
Might as well.
Hey, so just a little sidebar. I know I'm weird. Go ahead. You can say it, Tyler.
Fine. You're weird. I'm weird too. It's fine. It's okay.
Just about 2 minutes left here in the Megacast. Want to check in with our good friend Debbie Binder. Always great to have you with us here on the show. Debbie, how are you doing?
Good. Always good to be here with you two also. You guys, it's just a wonderful program and a great, community asset that you provide. So thank you for including me as part of your program.
Well, we're only as good as the people we have on the show, and that's people such as yourself. And we're always honored to be able to speak to people such as yourself at length to try to clarify the entire process. I will tell you, I have been a reporter in the Detroit market well over 10 years. I have learned more about our election process doing this show over the past year than I have in my 10 years as a reporter. And Debbie, that's because of you.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Ronnie. One day we'll have to get you working an election and you'll learn that much more.
You know what? I almost signed up last year for the city of Detroit as well because I knew it was going to be busy. In fact, I've been bugging my sister, my twin sister, to take part as well. So maybe next year, Debbie.
That would be great.
So hopefully you guys are getting a little bit of rest. It's been a crazy couple years.
It has been. Every year since I started, we've had 3 or 4 elections every year. This year, we had a May election. Right now, we know for sure we don't have an August one. And we don't know for November or next May yet because they have 90 days ahead of time to file for ballot language. So we don't have one for August, but still waiting to hear November, May, and next August and November, we will have a gubernatorial primary and general. So next year we'll be back to another busy year.
So in the meantime, what is the day-to-day like for you and your staff right now? Is it catch up?
It's a lot of catch up because there are a lot of things that weren't a necessity, but were important that didn't get done last year while we were in such, heavy election mode. So we are catching up. We have also brought back our passports that we were providing. We are a passport acceptance agency. That means we're not the actual Department of State, but we flow through to the Department of State. That actually, with the people starting to have that resurgence in travel, we're seeing a big increase in the number of people coming in for passports. So we have started doing them by appointment. And we are booking into July for passports. So we are seeing a resurgence in people seeking passports now too. I would urge anybody, like with everything post-COVID, it's going to take some patience. We're the time frames, that you have to allow what we used to be quoting and what we're quoting now. And that's just not what we're quoting. That's what the Department of State is quoting. They're extended times, even for expedited. So I would encourage anybody who needs a passport to plan ahead, call the clerk's office, set up a time, and make sure you allow time to get that passport. It's not a 2-week process anymore. Your expedited one is taking 4 to 6 weeks, and your regular passport's taking 10 to 12.
Holy cow. Wow. So, you know what? That is such a good reminder, though, if you have a passport and you haven't checked it in a while, because for a lot of us that have passports and you don't fly a lot or you don't go international a lot, you don't keep up on when it expires. And also, I will say for me, like a few years, well, it's been 10 now, when we got married, I had to do the expedited because my name legally changed and it has to match. It's not the old school way where it was like, oh, okay, this was my driver's license. It has to match exactly. So you need to, keep that in mind as well for all the brides out there that are getting married and changing their name legally.
It's very precision based. So, one of the things I would tell you as a passport acceptance agency, we actually can't process an adult renewal We have but what we do is we help a person get that all ready so that they take it to the post office, and we've double checked it with the knowledge and training that we have on passports to ensure that everything's correct. An example is if you don't use the right color ink, they may send it back. So it's worth that trip to come up here and have us look at it. We have all of the forms, but we can do a children's renewal or we can do a new adult passport right here, but is a pass-through. But if you do need a renewal, it's still worth coming up here. Just let us look at it, make sure you have everything correct so that you don't get it sent back and extend the time it takes to get your passport.
And also the frustration and the headache. So that
and also the frustration, yes.
So you can actually catch that flight. Debbie Binder with us here on the Megacast. She's the West Bloomfield Township Clerk. And with that, Debbie, what else is going on over there at the clerk's office that you want the public to know?
Well, one thing I wanted to say, and this is not my department, this is Treasurer's Department, but it is important because today is the last day to get your dog license without having a delinquent request. So today you can get your dog license for $10.50 if your dog is spayed or neutered, or $18 if not. But starting tomorrow, it will be $33. So if you need more information, I would call the Treasurer's office at 248-451-4860. But today, if you get up here today, you don't have to pay the delinquent fees. And that is all handled through the county. So we can actually do dog licenses for anybody in Oakland County. It's not just West Bloomfield residents.
Oh, that's good to know. And your office is open to the public, right?
Our office is open to the public 8 to 4:30. The only thing that requires an appointment are passports. Everything else is walk-up service 8 to 4:30 daily.
That's important information for the people in Kego. I don't know about Sylvan, but I think Kego, so much of their business, if you go into City Hall, is by appointment. And for people, such as myself, I always forget to make appointments. I don't know what I'm doing in the next hour, let alone the next 24 hours. So with that, Debbie, anything else you want to touch on? We have about 2.5 minutes left here in the show with you.
Just, the main thing, I'm always going to throw out that recruit for election workers, because as much as we're quiet this year, we will always need more next year. Thanks to you guys, we do get a lot of interest and we get a lot of people that come in. So I just always want to throw that out. And just, again, a thank you for everything you do for the community. And if anyone needs anything, the clerk's office is here 8 to 4:30. You can contact us by phone at 248-451-4848. And we are often the gateway to reaching something at the township. If we don't have the answer, we're going to send you to the right place.
You have been a wealth of information, and I don't want to jump into politics around some of the talk in the arena about the election changes, but just for people that are kind of sitting on the fence of both sides of these, the best way to educate yourself on the entire process is to volunteer.
It is the best way to find out it just reassures everybody who gets involved. It's easy to think you know what's going on from everything you hear, but the only way to really know what's going on is to get involved. Every clerk in the state of Michigan is adhering to state and federal election law. Everything we do is driven by law. So the best way to know how it's done is to get involved, see it firsthand.
Yeah, because it's so easy to sit on the sidelines and think you know what it's like, but until you actually are there. And I really think everyone should do it at least once in their life as well, especially when we're looking, to try to change some of these laws. Become informed, volunteer before you make that decision.
You know what, Ronnie? It's a really rewarding experience. I always tell people when I'm recruiting them, everyone complains and everyone comes back. Because they're not coming back. It does pay. It's a paid position, but per hour it doesn't pay very well. But it really does, it gives people a sense of reward and being involved in the community and doing something that they feel is a meaningful activity. So it provides twofold. It provides reassurance on how the process is, and it also provides a tremendous amount of reward to people who get involved and find out how much you're doing to help your community. We couldn't run the size of the elections we have. We have 66,000 residents and we have 54,000 registered voters. We couldn't run an election that size without a sizable group of people willing to work those elections. So we are grateful for each and every one of them, as well as our polling locations, because we couldn't run the elections without them as well.
Well, and so many people here locally are grateful to you and your team as well. We know it hasn't been an easy year over the past year with COVID on top of the political rhetoric as well. So we want to say thank you again, Debbie Binder, for being with us. It's always great talking with you.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys have a great week.
You too. Get out, enjoy the sunshine, enjoy the weather. Thank you, everyone, for taking time to be with us here on the Megacast.